Welcome to the Marriage Puzzle Podcast with Julie and Thomas Hobby. We are marriage coaches who help couples with pain points about money, intimacy, and communication go from being overwhelmed to being secure in their marriage.
If this is your first time listening to us, thanks for checking out our podcast. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and a review. Let's dive into this episode.
So last week, we had guests on our podcast who mentioned joining their hobbies together to spend time with each other. And we wanted to expand on that this week and what we do, and then we also have gotten a lot of Instagram messages that inspired this episode as well.
Yeah, so please make sure that you are interacting with us on social media, specifically Instagram. That's where we post a lot of our stuff, but make sure that you interact because we love to see what you're saying. We interact back. We actually, in fact, had a few messages come through recently. When someone follows us, we reach out and say, "Hey, thanks for the follow." And a lot of people asked us, "Is this, just a bot that's replying to us automatically?" And we were like, "No, it's really us. We're actually, the ones who you're talking to." So,
and we do listen. We
right,
do.
Right. So we listen to what you want to hear about, what you're saying, and we try our best to respond to everything. So make sure that you interact with us. We love to hear from you.
Yeah, at Marriage Puzzle. So
yes.
Instagram, Facebook. But this one came through on Instagram. I love this question. They asked how friendship fits into marriage and how to spend time with friends while still prioritizing your spouse.
Yeah, this is a great question. And there's a lot really that we can unpack with this. And so just to kick us off, what we try to do in scenarios like this is we really try to kind of keep those things in their own boxes or in their own categories. And so we're going to give you some of the categories that work for us to help prioritize these different areas and what works for us. And maybe it'll work for you, but find your own things that will work for you. So the categories that we use are guys' night for me, girls' night for Julie. We do a family night, and that
with our kids.
Includes all of our kids. We do a movie or something like that. We do a date night for Julie and I, and then double dates. So date with another couple that we want to spend time with. So those are the ways that we categorize these. Not that it's the most perfect method. There may be more or less options on there for you. You just have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, I think the key here is communication. We're really big on communicating and talking about these things and then making a plan. And not that you can totally schedule every second of your life as things pop up and things like that. But if you do get asked to girls' night or guys' night, communicate with your spouse, making sure that that's okay. It's not to ask like permission as if, I'm being controlled by Thomas, like, well, I have to ask my husband before I say yes to you. It's out of respect for them
right.
to make sure that that they're okay with that. And usually you are, but just out of respect, I do ask so that I'm not doing girls' night like every night or every week, which is not then prioritizing.
Yeah, and for us specifically, there are a number of other variables like kids.
I need you to watch the kids.
So if you go out, that typically leaves me with the whole dinner bedtime routine for you to go out at an early enough time to have enough time to enjoy yourself. So that typically puts more of a burden on me for that night. So that's a great reason to check in with your spouse on that if you have kids in the picture. I'm not saying if you don't have kids in the picture that you shouldn't check in with your spouse, but you should definitely be conscious of that and conscious of their feelings because they may just be like, no, I really just want to spend time with you tonight. But planning ahead, like, Julie said, is planning ahead is key. But also, I just want to add that I think there's something really important about having that quality time between you and your spouse and that quality time separate from your spouse, that quality time with just you, that me time that you get to kind of re-energize. The old saying goes, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I'm not saying that you need to go on trips by yourself or anything like that, because that could be a recipe for disaster. But, having that night to go on a girls' night for you or a guys' night for me, where you can just kind of be around some different people, can be really good and energizing for your relationship as long as it's done with the appropriate balance.
And you're going to have different personalities. I would say, I don't think you'd argue with me, that I'm more social out of the two of us. So I I do girls' nights once a month. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have a set of friends that we do plan. Like, okay, it's a new month. Where are we going? What date? We plan in advance, and we do that on the regular. Whereas Thomas is more of a homebody, if I will. Like you don't have as much guy nights out. But then you're like, sweet, I'm gonna play video games that night that you're out and
Mm-hmm.
you'll recharge, or you're into sports. That's kind of your, whether it's basketball or softball, those are your guy nights. So don't think that it has to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the wife is doing dinner and nails or whatever, that the guy has to have a social event to the same settings.
Right.
You have to figure out what works for you. But I would say for this question, friendship can fit into marriage while still prioritizing your spouse if it's done with good communication and planning.
Yeah, totally. And like I said, balancing it appropriately is great. I mean, if you're getting 10 nights out to my one,
Mm-hmm.
that can be a little out of balance. Again, not necessarily because, like you said, personality type depends a lot on that, but how that impacts the rest of the family could be what throws that out of balance. If, you're having 10 nights out before I get one, that's putting a lot of stress on me, even if it's once a month. For 10 nights in a row, or 10 nights,
10 months.
10 nights, compared to my one, to have to manage the kids and all that stuff. And so I think that that's really important to make sure that it's balanced. And if you're checking in with me and saying, hey, are you cool with this? I know you haven't had one in a while. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Seriously. Like, I'm really good hanging out here and just playing Xbox when you're gone. Then that's fine. As long as you're checking with your spouse and making sure that their energy level is still being built up and they're not just feeling like they're being put on the back burner for any reason. So I guess, and I'll say in that same breath that if you're also making that quality time with your spouse, it shouldn't matter. There shouldn't be a scorekeeping of who, like, you won't even think about that. If you guys are going on plenty of dates and spending time together, plenty quality time together, not just being at home, sitting on your own individual devices,
Mm-hmm.
but quality time together, then your spouse shouldn't feel those nights when you're gone from each other.
You're right. That's how the friendships fit into marriage. I guess then I would say they would fit into marriage as long as you're prioritizing your spouse.
Right.
You should have room, and that's healthy. And I think even I feel led to even give anyone listening like permission for this next thing of like, we had date night and double dates in two different categories,
Mm-hmm.
because at least for our relationship, we've found that the ideal of like, oh, we're gonna get married, and then my best friends are gonna get married, and we're gonna go out on these double dates all the time, and we're all gonna be best friends. That hasn't been the case for us. Like they're married, but I've had to just stay with my girlfriends as best friends, and you have your own like guy friends that we have like this different category for the double dates. And
Yeah.
I just want to give listeners permission that that's okay too, that you don't have to force that, and that friendships have to look like double dates, that's the only way to go out with your friends if your spouse comes along and their spouse comes along, because that could be really draining and not life-giving for the other person if there's not a good mesh of friendship there, like the other two have.
Exactly. Like, to give an example of that, if we went on a double date with one of my friends and their wife, then that may be draining for you because you don't know that other person very well. Like, I know my friend great. We're going to have a great time the whole time.
Old stories and inside jokes, and I'm just totally left out with this girl.
And so, that just kind of leaves you stranded with someone, or vice versa. It could go the other way too. So just to really kind of drive that point home, if you meet your spouse's friends and you guys, hit it off and it's great, I mean, it doesn't hurt to try those.
Yeah,
We're not saying don't do it
that's
at
great.
all.
I know that
but,
works.
you can definitely try it, but be in communication with each other afterwards and be like, hey man, that their spouse and I did not connect. Like, they are weird. I don't want to see them again. And so
I wasn't going for
go.
weird. I just think the connection of depending on the years of friendship or the compatibility, I would just kind of give you permission to go hang out with the guys.
They could be weird though.
And okay. And that you can have separate friends. It doesn't have to be this one big group.
Yeah. Try it. Don't try it. Whatever ends up working. Just be in communication with your spouse. Say, hey, I don't want to do that again. That was too draining for me. To allow you to have a fun night out, you can just go out with them on your own rather than drag me along, and then we'll go do something elsewhere. But we do think double dates are important as well, but you have to find the right couple that both of you can enjoy being around, not just one of you is along for the ride. So make sure you develop those relationships in a way that you find a couple that you can both just enjoy the evening with, enjoy the date with, and really both of you leave feeling energized.
So hopefully that helps you, gives you permission to have friendships outside of the marriage. And it will still work with prioritizing your spouse if you communicate and plan for it and find the balance there. But the next question that came in that we're going to talk about is they said something along the lines of rediscovering or redefining fun in your relationship, especially after or during seasons of competing priorities and high stress. So we are going to do a podcast series soon about different seasons, like still having fun and staying married during the different hard and changing seasons. But yeah, let's talk about how we keep fun, for maybe this is the couple that you get married and you had a lot of fun, and then you kind of get into those routines and you really do need to rediscover and redefine fun. What does that look like for us?
Yeah, we've talked about this in our own relationship, that was essentially us before we had kids, and then once kids came along, we had twins the first time around. And once that happened, we were just kind of sucked into survival mode, to try and keep two other human beings alive. That was important. And so
we were roommates, but we weren't having fun together.
Right.
We were
Yeah.
having fun with the babies, but our relationship, yeah. I love those words that they wrote, rediscovering and redefining, because then it was there. Just got to find it again.
Well, and some of the things that you may have done for fun before, I mean, as we all get older, those things can sometimes become less fun. Your energy level is a lot lower. You may not want to go out as late in the evening as you used to. Your kids are going to be up early the next morning, so your date nights have to start earlier in the evening. And so as those things happen in real life, you have to adjust and redefine what fun is. And sometimes that can be hard because it's like, well, we only knew one thing. We can't do that anymore. So how do we do something new that neither of us likes? I'll tell you how. You talk about it and you figure it out. We've got a few questions here that can help spark some of that conversation for you and get it going and help you to kind of rediscover some new things to have fun or redefine what fun looks like.
Yeah, we just actually took a couple through this, a husband and wife who are doing marriage coaching with us. And just for caveat, they don't have kids yet. So they're still trying to work on the fun in their relationship, not just all the hard work Monday through their Friday. And then they said Saturday comes, they don't know what to do together. And so yeah, these are the questions that we use, and hopefully you can pause it, write it down, and talk to your spouse about it as well.
Yeah. So one of them is what is something that you have always wanted to do? Plain and simple. Just that's a great opening, dreaming question to really start seeing what's on your heart. Now that can be a big question to ask, so you might want to hone it in a little bit. What's something you've always wanted to do for fun, or what's I don't know.
It's a good self-reflection because I think it starts with you. You can't just go to your spouse and say, I'm not having any fun in this relationship, so what are we going to do about it? Like, that's a bomb you just dropped on them. But if you have that self-reflection of, wait, what is something I've always wanted to do? It starts with you kind of thinking about that before you approach them. And maybe even the next question of like, what activities fill your cup that you haven't told your partner? Like that's not really fair. Like I said, if you just go say, I'm not having fun, if you're withholding an idea of something you haven't told them that
Right.
you used to do or you wanting to do for fun, like, and this is like activity, recreational or
Hmm.
creative, whatever, something you can do together for fun.
Yeah, and another one, what social activities deplete your cup that you have not told your partner? So really the opposite of that. We were just a little bit touching on this when we were talking about the double dates. If you go on a double date with someone that, your spouse really just does not connect, that's going to take a lot of energy for them to try and keep that conversation going. Whether they're an outgoing person or not, if they're really having trouble connecting to that other person, it's going to deplete them. So, asking your partner what things deplete them. Maybe it's going out in big groups. If you have a work event every week that, your spouse may like all the people, but going every single week really just drains them because they are more of an introvert like myself. That is just, like, I'm going to need a lot of time to recover from that. And then if I have to kind of ramp right back up and do it again the next week. So asking what those things are that deplete their cup,
I
that would be
think
good.
if you know what you don't want to do, it'll help narrow down what you do want to do. Again, instead of that loaded like, well, what should we do? It's like the question of Thomas is like, well, where do you want to eat? Like all these choices. I hate that because I'm like, well, give me options. So I actually tell him where I don't want to go and it'll help narrow down where we end up going. So that's just a silly example of, you could be like, why is this question in here? If you're trying to figure out what's for fun, knowing what you don't like will help you identify what you do like.
True. It can say these are the things that are off the table for me. You can still go do them, but these are the things that are going to be off the table for me, or at least very infrequent. It doesn't have to be completely off the table, but if it's a once a year thing, that's fine. Once every other month, you can decide what your recovery time needs to be from
Mhm.
those. Everyone should be able to sacrifice some for their spouse to, go have an enjoyable time, but asking them to do it too frequently is just going to kind of rub them the wrong way.
Well, that kind of leads into our last question in this exercise that we take couples through is what activities are you each willing to do to help fill your partner's cup?
Hmm.
So there is some, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, but these are the things I am willing to try since you like them. And golf was one of those for me. Like, not that we're big golfers, but Thomas took golf lessons first, and then it was like, hey, this would be fun if you do it with me. So then, like, okay, so I took lessons, and again, it's something we haven't done in a really long time, but we could go to the driving range or Topgolf at least, and and that's just something that now we can do together that I never thought I would embark in.
Yeah, and I mean, it could just be those mega social activities that drains you. Like that's something that would drain me. But again, if it was something that really fills up your cup, I could do it every so often to help you get that, you know, that buzz or whatever you want to call it, to fill your cup. So figure out what will stretch you, but stretch you enough to help fill your partner's cup. Because as you see your partner getting re-energized by something, that's going to make you at least feel good.
Yeah, I think once you've answered the questions and talked about this to rediscover and redefine fun together, again, that's the communication piece. Then the next thing is the planning of it, or it won't happen. Great, you talked about it, but if you don't put a plan and then put it into action, you still will be stuck in not having fun.
Hmm.
And so I think, a lot of people were like, oh, go on a date, go on a date. And maybe you are, every month or every week going on a date. But I would say, are those, maybe it's like super expensive romantic dinners, which is great. But if you're not having fun, I would add that recreational element. And I think sometimes we overthink the date, that it has to be just dinner, right? Dinner
Right.
and a movie, dinner and what, like, and that's not as much as like, it could be good conversation, but there's just this social, even just the two of you, connection that happened a lot probably when you were dating, that then we grow up and go, oh, that's silly to do, but go bowling, go like, I don't know, it just popped into my head of like
Something
something
different.
that you think that would be silly, but go be silly, and then you would have fun and connect again. And so I would say, so to add to the discussion of more questions, like think back through the life of your relationship, and think of those, your favorite dates, and
Yeah.
then tell your spouse that, or write them down, so that, again, you're not just coming to this conversation telling them you're not having fun in your marriage, but to be like, hey, we used to do all these things. Which one do you want to try? And then figure out those things that you enjoy doing together. Sports, hobbies, what interests, again, like
What do
recreational
you
things.
already know that you like doing
Yeah.
together? And then also, what are some things that you want to learn to do together or pursue together, which could be, cooking or hiking or, tennis or
Go
something
to
like
like a
that,
paint class,
Yeah.
learn how to paint
Yeah.
something. And then, yeah, I think that's good. Going back to the first question, that you can figure out stuff that you're going to do together, or maybe something you need to do alone. Like if that's kind of like your spouse, "Oh, I don't want to go to that yoga class." Okay, well, I think I really benefit from going to this yoga class this week, and then next week, what are we going to do together? And just giving yourself permission to have that conversation, and that you don't have to be stuck in this rut or whatever, with or without kids, with or without jobs. You can still have fun no matter how old you are, and whoever you married, you should have fun alone and together.
Yeah, exactly. And, in talking about the idea of, I just want to circle back to something for a second. You mentioned you may be really regimented and going out every so often and doing the same date over and over again. And we're going to get into this in a second and talk about a tool that we've got for you to use. But you can find a way to just do something silly to kind of break that routine. I had to actually look this up in real time because I couldn't remember. I had an idea. Our friends at Date Every Week go find them on Instagram. They're great. They post, I think they post every single day a new
Yeah.
date idea.
It's awesome.
I think they just recently hit a year of date 365. They had just, if I remember correctly.
They've been posting a year since this last Valentine's
Right,
Day.
and they were consistent every day posting something new. They're great, and so go check them out. But I had to go look this up because I thought this one that I remembered was interesting enough to say, if you're looking for something silly to just break the mold of whatever your normal quote unquote date is. This one just says they posted it around President's Day, and they said, plan a date night focused on a past leader of your country. Like it's just so silly and out of the box, but it's like, if you are in the same routine,
Yeah.
find something that is just like, you can find something totally off the map that you would never do, or you can say, you know what, this is just a silly thing. Let's try something new. And it could totally bomb, or you could have the most fun date of your marriage. So make sure you go check them out because they're great. They've got a lot of really cool ideas. But again, we told you we have a tool to share with you that we think will help you guys as well. So do you want to tell
It's
them about
helped
that?
us.
Yeah.
That's why we created it. So it's just our date template. So we created a weekly date night template or a monthly date night template for different rhythms. Whether you're going out every week because you have the capacity for that, or only once a month, that's fine too, but be very intentional for that because that's only 12 times a year. But right now in our life in this season with kids, we do use the monthly one to plan them. But then we try to have weekly date nights at home as well. And they come with 24 ideas that we came up with as well. So hopefully it's a good mix of fun, romance, and that laughter that you're talking about to help rediscover and redefine fun in your relationship. But the point of them is, if you just put date night on the calendar, that's one step. You're like, cool, yep, I got girls night, guys night, family night, date night. These are the rhythms we talked about. But then that date night comes and it's that day and you're like, what are we going to do? And that's when you kind of could fall into that rut of just dinner and a movie or whatever you're used to doing. That's then not having fun.
And sorry, not just that, but the whole, what you talked about earlier, where do you want to go for dinner? That fight that happens before you go out for dinner
not fun.
and not having fun. And so it's kind of a two-pronged thing. Like you have to plan it so that you don't have to think about the details the day of, but you also have to plan it so that you can kind of get a little out of the box and get back to what this original listener reached out to us about and said redefining the fun. So getting back to having the fun instilled in your date nights, not just going into the routine.
So yeah, the plan is when you can get these date night templates, by the way, at marriagepuzzle.com/date night. It'll send them to you, and we'll have that in our show notes. But when you get it, then plan it. Sit down with your spouse, and there's a place to list like your favorite restaurants. So if you're using the monthly one, list 6 to 12. You can go somewhere more than once during the year. And that way, like Thomas said, that's not a fight. You know where you're going. But then, so if it's like, cool, March, we picked a date, like on the calendar, a day. That could maybe be left blank until it gets closer, but we planned out what we're doing in March so that then when date night comes up, we're actually looking forward to, what we're doing in March, and then same for April and May. And it didn't take too long, but it was kind of like a lot to think about at first. But we planned 6 months at a time, and now we have those 6 months planned. We know what to budget for, what to, like I said, get the kids covered. And that has then added that sense of fun, even that anticipation. But it also has opened up the box to try those out of the box things that you were talking about as we got creative planning those dates together.
Yeah, totally. And, expert tip that's not included with the date night templates. So if you're listening to the podcast, you're going to be one of the only ones that hears this tip. Make sure you go, and for whatever like your favorite restaurants are that you're going to try to go to and things like that, make sure you get on their email list for those birthday months. And so you get that free discount or that discounted time when you go in your birthday month or your spouse's birthday month or whenever. Try and calculate those and plan those in accordingly. Save yourself a little bit of dough along the way.
Same, that's the financial coach in you, but
You're welcome.
They do some of that for anniversaries too. So of course we plan those special things.
If not, just say your anniversary is your birthday. What's the difference? It's a special date. That's all they're looking for. They just want you on their email list so they can get you into the restaurant anyway. So,
but this is a special link on our website. You will have to type in marriagepuzzle.com/date night to find that. But if you're interested in what else we're up to, of course, check out marriagepuzzle.com. You'll see all the different links, or if you don't follow us on social media and would like to interact with us, check us out at Marriage Puzzle on Facebook and Instagram. And
it's really us.
We're going
to respond.
And if
bots.
If you sign up for a discovery call with us for marriage coaching, that is free, and it is us.
Yes, that's us
on
too.
Zoom. So we'd love to chat for a free hour and see how we can help you in your marriage, because of course we look forward to you joining us next week, where together we'll work on marriage one puzzle piece at a time. See you later.
Have a good one.